I can guarantee that if you manage to start a habit and keep sticking to it, there will be days when you feel like quitting. When you start a business, there will be days when you don't feel like showing up. When you're at the gym, there will be sets that you don't feel like finishing. When it's time to write, there'll be days that you don't feel like typing. But stepping up when it's annoying or painful or draining to do so, that's what makes the difference between a professional and an amateur. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals know what is important to them and work toward it with purpose. Amateurs get pulled off course by the urgencies of life. Welcome back. We're in the final chapter in James Clear's book on atomic habits that we're going to include in this book review. And I'm so thrilled that you've stuck with me all this time because this is my favorite chapter, the Goldilocks Effect. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. Find that sweet spot. So, what happens? Why are some people really good at repetition and habits, and other people just fall on the wayside? The answer is going to be amazing. This is fascinating. This is science. This is nothing new, by the way. This is not new. But we have to keep reminding ourselves of these things in order to become the person that we want, right? And he says, why is it that some people stick with their habits, whether practicing jokes or drawing cartoons or playing guitar, while most of us struggle to stay motivated? How do we design habits that pull us in rather than ones that fade away? Scientists have been studying this question for many years. While there is still much to learn, one of the most consistent findings is that the way to maintain motivation and achieve peak levels of desire is to work on tasks of just manageable difficulty. That sweet spot, just right. The human brain loves a challenge, but only if it's within an optimal zone of difficulty. If you love tennis and try and play a serious match against a 4-year-old, you'll quickly become bored. Too easy. Or if you're playing against a pro, it's going to be too difficult and you will lose any motivation that might have considered. Now consider playing tennis against someone who is your equal. As the game progresses, you win a few points and you lose a few. You have a good chance of winning, but only if you really try. Your focus narrows, distractions fade away, and you find yourself fully invested in the task at hand. This is a challenge or just manageable difficulty, and it is a prime example of the Goldilocks rule. The Goldilocks rule states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. And he gives the example in the book about Steve Martin, who I didn't know this, started his working career at the age of 10 in Disneyland. Back then you could do that, I guess. But he found through his work there that he built up a desire to entertain other people. And he worked on his craft. And he worked on his craft and he worked on his craft. And I love Steve Martin, wild and crazy guy, right? Yeah, I used to have the album. That's telling you something. But nevertheless, when you're starting a new habit, it's important to keep the behavior as easy as possible so you can stick with it even when conditions aren't perfect. Once the habit has been established, however, it's important to continue to advance in small ways. These little improvements and new challenges keep you engaged. And if you hit the Goldilocks zone just right, you can achieve a flow state. It's a beautiful feeling, right? A flow state is the experience of being in the zone and fully immersed in an activity. Scientists have tried to quantify this feeling. They've found that to achieve a state of flow, a task must be roughly 4% beyond your current ability. In real life, it's typically not feasible to quantify the difficulty of an action in this way, but the core idea of the Goldilocks rule remains. Working on challenges of just manageable difficulty, something on the perimeter of your ability seems crucial for maintaining motivation. Be uncomfortable. Just be uncomfortable. That is so key. I love it. Improvement requires a delicate balance. You need to regularly search for challenges that push you to the edge while continuing to make enough progress to stay motivated. Behaviors need to remain novel in order for them to stay attractive and satisfying. Without variety, we get bored, and boredom is perhaps the greatest villain on the quest to self improvement. Boredom is the key, that is the ticket. If you're feeling bored about doing a task, the monotony of it, that's your signal. Your body is literally telling you this is the moment you push through. That's the signal. That's when you push. That's when you say, okay, just one more minute. I'm going to do this for one more minute. Time yourself. Timing yourself on anything, especially when you're just struggling to push through, oh, it's magical. It's absolutely magical. But how do you stay focused when you're getting bored? What's the difference between the best athletes and everyone else? What do really successful people do that most don't? And he said at some point it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day, doing the same lifts over and over. And his answer surprised me because it's a different way of thinking about work ethic. People talk about getting amped up to work on their goals, whether it's business or sports or art. You hear people say things like, it all comes down to passion. What's your passion? Or you have to really want it. As a result, many of us get depressed when we lose focus or motivation because we think that successful people have some bottomless reserve of passion. Really successful people feel the same lack of motivation as everyone else. The difference is that they still find a way to show up despite the feeling of boredom. The greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. We get bored with habits because they stop delighting us. The outcomes become expected, and as our habits become ordinary, we start derailing our progress to see novelty. Perhaps this is why we get caught up in the never-ending cycle, jumping from one workout to the next, one diet to the next, one business idea to the next. As soon as we experience the slightest dip in motivation, we begin seeking a new strategy, even if the old one was still working. And he quotes Machiavelli, men desire novelty to such an extent that those who are doing well wish for a change as much as those who are doing badly. This is nothing new. If he's quoting Machiavelli for this same concept before science proved it, this has been around since the beginning of time. This is why we need to help each other out, move each other forward, struggle through the boredom. You can do it. You got this. You can do it. Seriously, it's one big neon sign. He goes on to say, perhaps this is why many of the most habit-forming products are those that provide continuous forms of novelty. And he referenced video games and slot machines. He says, in psychology, this is known as a variable reward. Haha. They don't create a craving. That is, you can't take a reward people are uninterested in, give it to them at a variable interval, and hope it'll change their mind. But they are a powerful way to amplify the cravings we already experience because they reduce boredom. So the sweet spot, Goldilocks rule, desire occurs at a 50-50 split between success and failure. Half of the time you get what you want, half of the time you don't. You need just enough winning to experience satisfaction and just enough wanting to experience desire. This is one of the benefits of following the Goldilocks rule. If you're already interested in a habit, working on challenges of just manageable difficulty is a good way to keep things interesting. Variable rewards or not, no habit will stay interesting forever. At some point, everyone faces the same challenge on their journey to self improvement. You have to fall in love with boredom. We all have goals that we'd like to achieve and dreams that we'd like to fulfill, but it doesn't matter what you are trying to become better at. If you only do the work when it's convenient or exciting, then you'll never be consistent enough to achieve remarkable results. And this is where scheduling, timing comes in, making time for yourself. If you can't give yourself 10 minutes to exercise your brain, to exercise your body, to exercise your spirit, that's half an hour out of 24 hours. You can do that. And if you want to start a project, and this goes back to the beginning of the book, you begin. Write one page at a time. Lift one weight at a time. Eat one carrot at a time. Whatever that is for you, whatever habit, and just pick one you really want to begin. The new year's coming, so this is perfect timing. Absolutely perfect timing that you found this show. Just a little baby step, just a little one. It's fantastic. And when you get bored, oh, remind yourself, oh, boredom, I'm on the right track. When a habit is truly important to you, you have to be willing to stick to it in any mood. Professionals take action even when the mood isn't right. They might not enjoy it, but they find a way to put the reps in. Repetition, repetition, repetition. The only way, the only way to become excellent is to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over. You have to fall in love with boredom. That's where the peak motivation comes. That's where mastery evolves. That's in your search for meaning. If you like the show, share it with somebody you know, and please take a moment to share a comment. What are you going to work on for the new year? What is your new habit? What bad habit are you going to get rid of? I'd love to hear about it. This is a conversation. This is not medical advice. I'm Diane Planadin, and I would love it if you could also subscribe to the channel. We are growing very organically, slowly, but I'm not giving up because I've made a habit of doing this show and a habit of showing up. Live a more inspired life, and you will flourish.